Mario Party Jamboree brought back the buddy system from Super, but it was changed quite a bit, including having to play character-specific minigames and fight for them. There are 10 of these Jamboree buddy minigames, also called Showdown Minigames, which is what I will be calling them for the rest of this video. Also, before I start the ranking, I will not be taking the advantages you get for reaching the partners on the board or what they do outside of the minigames. I doubt that many people would disagree with me that the worst of these minigames is Rosalina's Radical Race, also being the only motion control minigame out of this bunch. The biggest problem with this minigame is just the controls. Motion can already be a bit annoying, and I would have preferred if it was controlled with a joystick, but it's even worse is able to trigger vertically, not horizontally. Sure, the snowboard one is vertical like the Joy-Con, but it means nothing when they would control better horizontally, or just without motion controls. It doesn't help that the actual layout of the race itself is really not that interesting to me. The first part has some turns with some rocks to dodge and the occasional booster ramp. These are not that interesting, honestly. Like, all you do is turn, maybe dodge some rock, which would not be that great with better controls, but that's the better part layout-wise. The Rainbow Road section is even worse, though. The only obstacles are the turns, which are barely count. Everything else in this section is a booster, with some being ramps too. Oh, and to let people catch up with first place, they had a couple of these booster bubble things that are stronger, which is just so boring. It's just really boring of a layout combined with awful feeling controls, making this clearly the worst of the Showdown minigames, and in my opinion, the only one that is just straight up bad. Waluigi's Pinball Arcade is the only other Showdown minigame that I actively dislike. However, unlike Rosalina's minigame, I'm just really bad at pinball, and really can't have much fun with it. This is also the minigame that I have the biggest problem with being too long, which for the other minigames, I don't usually have too much of a problem with the length at all. This one is just really repetitive, and it gets a bit tiring. I will say this more is interesting than the other type of pinball I've played in games. The letters following Waluigi not only feel fitting, but it makes things more fair, at least with all the different boosts you can get. Only thing I can say I really don't like is the top right bumper. I feel like the ball ends up getting stuck there if you hit it, and if you let it fall, it tends to fall between the bottom bumper, so it can't even be hit. Other than that, the minigame itself is fine. I just dislike it because I'm bad at pinball. On to minigames that I actually like. The first is Mario's 3P, which is a collection of 3 older minigames that are not playable alone in this roster. Mario is also added in as a 5th player for some reason, which does not feel necessary at all, especially since it doesn't actually matter if he wins. The first of these is Leaf Leap, which feels like an odd addition to me because of it being a minigame in 5, while the other two are in 1 and 2. Oh, but that doesn't actually matter to my ranking. This is personally my favorite part of the minigame, with it being a very simple minigame that works for a collection like this. No problems at all. Bumper Balls is the weakest of this collection though. I've never been a huge Bumper Ball fan, but adding in a 5th player makes it even more annoying at the start. Feels like there'll be times when nothing up happens. The final minigame is Shy Guy Says, which is another pretty good choice. It's just another good minigame added on, even if it does feel like it can go on kinda long sometimes, which doesn't help with there being 2 others before it. I just don't find any of these minigames to be anything super great, plus compared to the other Showdown minigames, they are more interesting, especially being original. Peach's Day Off is similar to Mario's minigame with there being 3 separate minigames. They're not really connected at all, but the difference is that Peach has 3 unique minigames, unlike Mario having older ones. The first one is pretty basic, but I think it worked well. Having to dodge the bitty buds would be okay, but not super interesting on its own. Being able to push other players into them to cause them to drop their presence is way more fun. And it's not like dodging is bad either. The second minigame is kinda bad. It's like same as Lame or Hot Cross Blocks, where you have to pick the unique option, and you get the amount of donuts on the tray that you picked. This just kinda slows everything down after the first minigame, and 5 rounds is a bit much, but I think comparing it to Mario, I like Peach's other 2 minigames more than any of Mario's. The final minigame is pretty good too. I enjoy having to race to pick the correct color gems, and have new ones spawn each round to keep things interesting. I feel like it also ends out just the right time so it doesn't drag on too much. Just pretty solid even if it is weaker than the others. Daisy's Field Day almost like it's multiple minigames in one, but unlike the others they all actually connect together instead of being 3 separate things. Admittedly, this one has 4 rounds, but I wish it was 3 instead of 4, because it ends up taking a bit long. Onto the actual minigames, I do enjoy how they're all basically coin collecting for points, but each one feels mostly different. The first one can be slightly annoying, especially with the red coins, but I think it is generally pretty good jumping between the pillars, and only one person being able to run the pillars jumping in the water is usually cool, but it can be annoying if you get stuck because of where the people are. The second round works well, but feels the hardest to control because of how small you are on the screen. It doesn't last too long. I do like the platform placement of 3 spinning in the front, and 2 moving behind them. And this probably works the best with all the red coins. The other one is decent. I do like how coins get dropped everywhere so you're not punished for being farther back, but I just don't enjoy jumping over the natural collecting coins very much. I think the round is the previous round, but executed better. Platform spinning around much faster and changing directions, which works much better for collecting coins as they're dropped onto the platform. My main issues with this is the camera on round 2, and round 3 should be removed with it being the least fun. Similarly round 4, and the minigame should just been 3 rounds instead of 4 in the first place. Yoshi's Mountain Race is a much better version of Rosalina's minigame. Instead of racing on a snowboard with awful controls, you're riding on Yoshis that actually have good movement. The actual layout of the race is also much more interesting in this minigame. There's some piranha plants in that work as some general obstacles, but there are plenty of sections that have you jumping across platforms or dodging moving obstacles like bitty buzzer boulders. Being that you're going up a mountain, you're also not going in a straight line with slight curves. Instead, there's a lot more actual movement that is also make this a lot more enjoyable. There is also apples which work similar to the boost pads where they make Yoshi go faster for a short time. These mainly spawn behind the player in first so to make things more fair. It keeps the player who gets in first immediately from being guaranteed to win if they know what they're doing. Admittedly, there could be a better way of keeping things balanced that feels more fair to everyone, but I think this works fine. It's on theme too with Yoshi and everything. This is another that can go on a bit too long personally though. I, at the earliest, want to end when I am nearly there anyway, so it doesn't bother me too much, but I can understand that not everyone will feel that way. Being at my top 4 Showdown minigames, these are the ones I would consider being some of my favorite minigames, at least in Jamboree as a whole. But Wario's Buzzer Beater is the only one that I don't feel as confident in being one of my favorites, and kind of borders the bottom of S tier for me. The 10 little mini quizzes is just enough to not be too long, and I like the little break at the halfway moment, which just feels very on theme for a game show. The different quizzes are also very fun, and there's enough to make each time you play this minigame feel different. They also work with easily being changed to have them played multiple times. The only one I don't like is the coin counting, specifically when they're spinning in a wheel. It's the only one I have trouble with, but it's the only one that just isn't really fun at all. The others are each pretty good and work well for a quiz type minigame, like this one. Being that there are other quiz minigames across here, this feels like an ultimate version, which I think does work with a Showdown minigame, since it lasts a lot longer than the average one. These top 3 I am much more confident at being my favorite, and to start that is Luigi Rescue Operation. Sure, unlike Wario's minigame, there are no changes to the different sections, but I find Luigi's much more fun to play. There are 5 different puzzles to play with the first 4 repeating but harder variations, then the final puzzle is played. I like each of the puzzles a lot. The painting is fun to put together, the statue room is good, but probably the worst. The floor icons work well as a short puzzle, and so does the barrels. The first group is quite simple, but the second version can cause enough of a challenge for a minigame like this. The last one is a good way to finish off the minigame, and can take long enough to balance things out. It's probably one I can replay the most of all the Showdown minigames, but I do think that the other 2 I have more fun with, even if not as replayable. Junior's Jauntlet definitely has the best name out of all the Showdown minigames, and maybe even all the minigames. Other than that, it is still one of the best minigames too. Of course, for Brother Junior, there's a ton of different attacks that you dodge, and there are enough different types to make each time you play this minigame feel different, even though there are a whole 10 rounds. The only one I don't like is the final one that is always played. I feel like once you start charging people down, it feels a little too difficult to win, and the only reason this makes sense is that anyone who survives gets 3 points instead of just 1, so the entire last round is just very unbalanced. The last round is also longer, so once you get to it, it just feels like it should be over already. It is quite a shame because the different attacks that take place during the first 9 rounds are really fun to try and avoid, or chase down for the couple that have you do that instead. It really is very strong, but just barely falls in number 1. And what is that exactly? Well, DK's Conga Line is my favorite of all the Showdown minigames. Is it actually the best from a gameplay standpoint? Probably not, but I really enjoy rhythm in games like this, and you can't say it's not charming to just bang on those bongos. Look at the little guy go! Admittedly, it does go on a bit too long, but I have too much fun with this minigame to care. I also really like the solo sections where it zooms in on people. I think it is very balanced with the points too. Only getting 2 points for getting perfect still makes them obviously better to get, but getting some doesn't guarantee the lead if you also miss some. This is also one of the minigames that online lag is the worst on when you don't have the advantage, but I still have fun with it. And that is my complete list of all the Showdown minigames. I'm sure plenty of people will disagree with me, so tell me what you think in the comments below. Also, make sure to like the video if you enjoyed a lot, and hey, maybe subscribe. I hate asking like this, but it really does help a lot, especially for a channel of my size.